I was like, okay, well, let's go out and let's just go sell and see what it would be like on what kind of customer response we would get by selling.
With absolutely no product at all?
So
like
we didn't have trucks there yet. We didn't have product there yet. We didn't have.
You're just gonna see if you could sell with absolutely
proof of concept.
Yeah.
Proof of concept, exactly.
That's
and
funny.
and so we're just gonna figure out what rebates and incentives are going on in this area, and we're gonna go out and just offer it to see if there's a good response. And so we go out and we literally are like selling everybody that we talk to.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Beyond Net Worth podcast. I'm Kallan Webster.
And I'm Ben Goffredson.
And we are your hosts. Today's special guest is Kris Grover. I'm going to read just a quick bio about Kris, and then we'll get started. Kris Grover is the owner and president of Eco Installation, a multi-state startup company that has done over 9,700 installs and has grossed over $14 million in sales. Kris was a millionaire by age 28, a successful real estate investor, and a father. We're excited to get to know you more, Kris.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Well, so to start, I kind of want to get a little bit more context about Eco Installation. So maybe if you could tell us what you do, like what that company does, your market, your services, and just a little bit about that just before we dive into everything.
Yeah, so what Eco Installation does and our work primarily is with residential retrofit work. That means like home improvements on regular homes that are already pre-existing, where we will go in, we'll try and make the home more energy efficient. So we'll look at like insulation levels, we'll look at like the HVAC system to make sure that it's sealed properly, that it's working efficiently. Then we'll look at like the ventilation for the attic, make sure that it's venting properly, not overheating, and that it all kind of works together to make the home as energy efficient as possible.
That's awesome. So I saw on your website actually that you've saved a lot of money for your clients.
Yeah, so the average customer will save $500 to $700 a year on heating and cooling costs by doing these types of upgrades to the house.
That's really cool. And what kind of, is it like spray insulation or is it?
So we do mainly blown in fiberglass. We've done spray foam and everything, but when it comes to being like cost effective and return on investment, then going with blown in fiberglass is the way pretty much everybody goes, just because that's the way that it's cost effective to do it. Spray foam's just super expensive.
Yeah, that's really cool. So how did you get into the insulation business?
Man, it was crazy. Like I really just fell into it. I had been doing sales prior, and the way I got into the business was I had a recruit that was supposed to come and work for me in LA one year in 2009 in my office there that I had recruited, and he told me that, hey, yeah, I want to come sell there, but I don't have any money. He's like, if you give me an advance, then I'll come and sell. And I was like, okay. And I knew the guy, so I thought, okay, yeah, this dude isn't gonna like take my money and run. So I gave him $2,000, and he's like, I'll be out there in like 3 weeks. And so I waited, and then he doesn't show, and then he won't answer his phone, he won't answer text, emails, nothing, and he's just like totally like dodging me after that. And so at the end of the summer, I went back home, and I knew where he lived, so I went to his house. He wasn't there, so I just went and sat on his couch and waited for him to come home. And he ends up he ends up coming home, and then he sees me, and he's like, oh, hey, what's up, man? And he's like, I owe you money, huh? And I was like, yeah, like you've been dodging me ever since you took that $2,000 from me. And he tries to give me this excuse that his phone isn't working and whatever. And I was just like, yeah, sure. I'm sure that's exactly what's happening. And anyway, he then says that he's heard that I've done really well with sales, that I made a bunch of money and have done really well. And I was like, yeah, things have gone well. I like where I'm at. Things are good. And he's like, well, I know these people that are talking about starting this door-to-door insulation company. And I was like, insulation company door-to-door? I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of. I was like, who's going to want to sell insulation door-to-door? And like, who's going to want to buy that? Because in my mind, like insulation was like, when you're building a house, you insulate the walls. Who's going to want to buy that door-to-door? Like, and so I had like no interest in it. And he ends up calling the buddies of his that he knew and like gets them on the phone with me and is like, we got to get you guys together right now. And so they get us together, or these two guys that were supposedly wanting to start this insulation company. I was like, okay, well, let's go out and let's just go sell and see what it would be like on what kind of customer response we would get by selling.
With absolutely no product at all?
So
like
we didn't have trucks there yet. We didn't have product there yet. We didn't have...
You're just going to see if you could sell with absolutely...
Proof of concept.
Yeah.
Proof of concept, exactly.
That's funny.
And so we're like, we're just going to figure out what rebates and incentives are going on in this area, and we're going to go out and just offer it to see if there's a good response. And so we go out and we literally are like selling everybody that we talk to. And I was just like, okay, well, I think that there might be something here, because everybody was buying, and it was a no-brainer for people to do it. Because when I started back in 2009, there was this program that Obama came out with called the National Recovery and Reinvestment Act, where he gave millions of dollars to each state to make homes more energy efficient. And so they would just give it to homeowners to pay for insulation and these upgrades. And that, like, with all those incentives and the incentives from the utilities and other places, it covered 100% of the cost for the homeowners to do it. And then they would get a 30% tax credit on top of it.
Holy crap.
So they would get paid 30% to do it, and then it would lower their bills by $500 to $700 a year. So it was like the biggest no-brainer out there.
It's an easy sell.
And so, like, after I went out and I started selling, I was just like, okay, I think that this is going to be a moneymaker. And so I was like, I'm going to take this to the next level. Like, I know I can sell well, and I know these dudes I'm with have a lot of sales experience. So I was like, I'm going to take all the dudes that I've recruited in the past to sell alarms that sucked bad and like didn't sell, couldn't sell, didn't make any money. I'm going to take those dudes and I'm going to put them on this and see how it goes. And so I call a bunch of my buddies that came out and tried it and didn't do well, and then they killed it. Like, just going door to door selling this. And within the first like 2 months, we sold over $1 million in insulation in the first 2 months. And that was just from us getting going.
And where was that at, that first?
That was in Idaho. So 2 months or 3 months, it was right in that.
So you made back the $2,000.
That dude like didn't give me my money back. He started selling insulation, and he actually started working under my company.
That's so bold. I don't think I'd ever do that. I don't think I would have gone into his house and sat there. I would have been nervous. Like, he comes home and like, intruder, you know? Yeah. That's pretty awesome.
Well, they were already buddies.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, you guys were.
So he was just trying to screw me out of $2,000, I think.
It's funny. He probably was doing that to other companies too.
A lot of people did that. Like, they would go and get sign-on bonuses and then just
bail.
totally bail on them. So I think it's more common than you think.
Oh, I digress. My brother-in-law runs a summer sales division. Same things happen to him.
Yeah.
When you sign someone and promise them something, and then that's like they're out after that.
Yeah.
Anyways, go on.
Yeah. So I was thinking, 2 months. What happened after that? Like, how big did you get?
And what year was that? Because $1 million is a lot more whenever you were starting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was back in 2009 when we first started, and it was crazy money for me because I was like 23, 24.
That's insane.
And like starting to pull in crazy amounts of money. I was just like,
meanwhile, the real estate market's crashing down.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what was going on.
Yeah. Which it's kind of like one of those, that was the product. I mean, the government was
Yes.
they were paying for it.
That was the key is just following where the government were like putting money. And so I was just like,
Jeez.
this is, you just
Like
follow
the
this.
California gold rush.
Yeah.
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 So I think it'd be really like one thing is how to scale, because you were able to scale big time, right?
Yeah.
And-
So I scaled really fast because I was a manager selling alarms before. So I had a bunch of sales guys that I had already trained and knew. And so I just started pulling my guys from sales, from alarm sales into the installation. And so I started with all the guys that sucked, like didn't sell well at the beginning. And then as those guys started selling well, then all the dudes that were like doing really well were like starting to notice, because they're like, yeah, we remember that guy. Couldn't sell anything. And now he's out there making a ton of money selling insulation. So then it just made it start growing and growing.
Yeah.
And so when I scaled, like within 6 weeks, I had a branch in Idaho Falls going, a branch in Provo going. We had a small number of guys in Pocatello selling, and then we got another crew going in Coeur d'Alene.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And that was like just at the very beginning, within the first few months.
Yeah, your first few months.
Mm-hmm.
What challenges did you have for that? Was there anything like, I'm going way too fast here.
Well, challenges that came up was like I was really just testing the water. So like the branch in Idaho Falls, I ended up like getting the apartment myself to move people into, and I moved like all these dudes into my own apartment. And so I got like a 3-bedroom apartment, put bunk beds in there, and like loaded it up with all these dudes to get them to start selling, so they had a place to stay. And so that was not the funnest.
So just like getting those guys. What about operations? Because you have a good sales team, right? And you're
How big is your? Oh, go ahead.
No, finish.
How big is your office staff? Like,
So
are you the whole admin side of it?
So I didn't take over the admin side. They hired an office girl or 2 office girls.
Yeah.
And then the majority of the sales were coming from all my guys.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's really cool. So sales. For some reason I kind of want to talk about sales for a little bit. Why did you get into sales?
So
And it's like summer sales, right?
yeah, so I started with summer sales. So and I always told myself I was never going to be a door-to-door salesman,
Yeah.
like because I had friends that had done it and went door-to-door, and I was always like, man, that is not for me. I'm never going to be a door-to-door salesman. And I was working as a personal trainer when I got back from my mission, and so was doing that for a few years, and I really enjoyed the job. Like I enjoyed working out and I enjoyed working with people, but there wasn't like that much money in it. And so while I was there in Pocatello, I was going to ISU at the time. I went to a sales seminar, and they did like a big, like, I don't know, motivational thing at the beginning before it started. And they started talking about like, if you want to be a millionaire, like, and they like have everyone raise their hand, like, who wants to be a millionaire in here? And I was just like, well, yeah, like I want to be a millionaire. And they're like, okay, well, if you want to be a millionaire, then you should pay attention right now, because this is going to teach you where you have the best chance of basically making millions of dollars. And they had this pie graph, and in the pie graph, the first part, it was like 1% of the millionaires out there just inherited the money and was given to them. And then the next part was like 10% were professional athletes that just made crazy money being professional athletes. And then the next one was like doctors and attorneys and those people. And I was like, well, I don't like school. I don't want to go to school that long to be a doctor. I'm probably not going to be an attorney. I want to be a professional athlete, but it doesn't seem to be working out for me. And I don't have anybody in the family that's going to give me any money. And so they're like, the next part, the whole rest of the graph made their money in sales. And so I was like, wow, well, it looks like my best shot to be a millionaire and to make a bunch of money is going to be learning how to sell. And so at that point, I was like, okay, well, I think this is the direction I need to go, is I need to start getting into sales. And after I had went to that presentation, like things just started falling into place, like where I got recruited into sales, into this sales team that was like the best sales team in Vivint. It was Apex back in the day. They were the number one office in the whole company.
Wow.
And I ended up getting recruited into their office, and then I won their like rookie madness that year. So I was in the number one office, and I was the number one rookie
in the country.
Yeah.
Well, and I see that, and I see like you would have had to got so far out of your comfort zone doing stuff for Vivint, and then you transition to insulation. It's like, hey, I won rookie madness in this hard sell environment. Now I'm getting like slow pitch, underhand. It's just like it's an easy sell.
Exactly. Like I went from like selling alarms is like the hard ball. Like if you want to learn how to sell something hard that you go door-to-door selling, go to door-to-door selling alarms.
Yeah.
Like that's one that you're going to learn real quick. You're going to sink or swim. And with that, like I went into it with the mentality that, okay, I might not be the best salesman here. I don't have hardly any experience, and all these dudes in this office are like killing it. And I was like, I'm just going to work harder than everybody else out here. And so I made the goal like that when they drop me off in our car group every day, that I'm not going to look at my phone one time. I'm not going to like answer my phone to girlfriends, to parents, family, anything. Like I'm just going to work from the time I get dropped off till I get picked up. And I'm not going to get picked up at the nighttime sitting on a corner waiting for a ride. They're going to pick me up on a doorstep. And I don't care if I'm knocking till 10 at night.
Wow.
And so with that attitude, I just covered a lot of ground because I wasn't selling like a high percentage. I had to like talk to a lot of people to get any sales. But like my very first week, I sold 12 alarms my first week. Wow. And that was like, that's quite a big deal in the alarm industry. That's quite a few.
Yeah.
Well, it says a lot about you, because not everyone has that kind of grit.
Yeah, it definitely was a lot of work, like a ton of work. But I learned how to sell, and by the end, like by the time I was transitioning out of alarms, I sold, like, this was years later, but I got recruited to go out and do an extended season out in Ohio one year, and it was only for like less than 2 weeks, and I sold 50 alarms in less than 12 days.
50?
50. Like everybody in that office was so pissed. Like there was literally other sales reps crying because I was selling all the panels, because there were new panels that Vivint was selling that year that we were only given 200 of them. So everybody in the extended office, there was only 200 available. And other reps started crying because I was selling all of them. And
don't do it. You know who you are.
And the manager actually started following me around and taking me off the doors, telling me that I have to slow down and I can't be selling so many.
That is insane. Yeah, that's amazing. So going back, unless you had a thought.
No.
Did you finish school? Did you go to get a bachelor's degree?
No, so I ended up dropping out after that, and
you took a semester?
Yeah, and then just going right into sales.
So was it from school that you got into the best that sales group? The
Yes.
best sales group in America. It was which school? Where are you going?
I was going to ISU.
Oh, cool. So they came on campus.
So the way that I got recruited is kind of funny. Is who was it? I think it was my home teacher in my ward, or like whoever. He came and told me, he's like, hey, you want a free trip to Vegas? Like he came and was like doing
sales tactics.
Yeah, he was like doing visiting teaching. He was the Elders Quorum president is who he was. And
crap.
And he's like, hey, you want a free trip to Vegas? And I was like, well,
Yeah, to do
yeah,
what?
that sounds fun. And
This is my eldest growing president.
yeah. And then we get down there. It turns out I'm supposed to be selling alarms. And then
He totally lied to you.
he totally
didn't tell you anything.
He totally conned me into going on this trip.
Gosh, what a free trip. Okay, you're selling alarms.
Yeah. And so I get down there and we're supposed to be selling. And I had already always heard like these horror stories of like summer sales companies that you go out there and they don't pay you. Like you just work all summer and you don't get any money. And so I was like, dude, I don't want to go out there and not get paid. And then the regional manager was there. And no, the regional manager was there and the manager of the office. And he did an incentive. He's like, if you guys go out there and sell today, I will give you a $200 gift card to Nike Town tonight. So you sell one, I'll give it to you right now. And so I was like, okay, fine. I'll get my gift card. And I went out there and I knocked one door, sold one alarm, and sat on the curb and got my gift card.
Wow.
So I, like, from the get-go, I sold the very first person I ever talked to. And then I was like, I'm not going back out. Like, I'm going to get my gift card, and that's it. And I didn't tell anybody else that. And I got my gift card, went back to Pocatello, and then the manager, like, just was calling me constantly. And he's like, no, dude, you got to come. Like, you got to come out here. And I kept telling him no, because I was like, I'm not going to be this door-to-door salesman. Like, that's not me. And he calls me for like 2 months, and they had already started. They already had their team in Dallas, and he finally convinces me June 1st to go out there. And they'd already been selling since like the middle of April. And
Your 13-year anniversary tomorrow.
Yep. And
anniversary.
they're like, come out here and just start selling. And I was like, okay. And so I went out there a month late. And so I sold June, July, and August. And I sold close to 190 alarms in 3 months.
Holy crap. How much money is that?
Like 93 grand.
That you made?
Yeah.
10 years ago.
And 10 years ago, yeah, adjusted for inflation. And maybe Mallory could do that. And then, how old were you?
22.
Wow. So what do you do with $93,000 at 22 years old?
Dude, like, so the way that they do their commission checks is they pay you half up front, and then they give you this huge back end check at the end of the summer. And so I kept seeing these like front end checks come, and I was just like, okay, I'll probably just get this. I'm probably not going to get this back end check that everyone's talking about, because I hear how everyone gets screwed over or whatever. And then I have it shipped back, and I'm not home yet, and my old roommate is there, and I'm like, hey, dude, I'm expecting this check to come in the mail. And I'm like, you got to open it when it comes. And so it gets there, and he opens up this check, and he's like, dude, this check is like $50,000. And I'm like, I was like, wow, I'm actually getting paid on this.
Wow.
And so I got this massive check, and I had all the front end money already, and I was just like, I started spending money, you know.
Started feeling good.
Yeah, I thought I was like the biggest baller out there.
Yeah. So what was the first thing you bought?
I bought a new TRX 450R. Because I had all these buddies in Provo that had all these quads that would go riding all the time, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy one. I'm just gonna start rallying with these guys. Yeah. And so right when I got back, I went and bought one.
The Provo All-Star Life.
It was the Provo All-Star to the max.
That was like the golden age of Provo All-Stars too back then. That was perfect.
With Jimmer Fredette.
Yep. I was there at that time.
That's amazing. Oh, literally with Jimmer?
Yeah.
Jimmermania.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jimmermania.
So, one thing with sales, I kind of want to ask, like, should you do it? Like, should people go do summer sales, or like, is it for everybody? And kind of along that line is like, would you still be doing summer sales if you hadn't started a business?
So that's one thing I would tell people without a doubt. Like, if there's one skill that you need to get out there and you need to learn, is learn how to sell, because that is in every part of life. Is you're going to be learning how to sell yourself. Either if you're selling yourself to your boss on why you're a better hire than somebody else, or you go and you get a degree in accounting or whatever, you want to start making real money, you're going to start your own business, and you're going to need to learn how to sell your skills. And so if you can go out there and you can learn how to sell door to door, it's going to teach you how to sell, and that will set you up for your whole life.
Yeah. So what about like one of the biggest things for not doing summer sales? That's what they say. Okay, you're gonna go knock doors. You're gonna make, I don't know what the average is. Let's say you make 80K, and then you get super excited about it, and then you're like, man, I'm gonna do this, and then you drop out of school and you keep doing it, and then next thing you know, this is the horror stories people say, and then it's like, okay, then you're gonna be 30. And you're still going to be knocking doors. And you're going to be wondering why you're still doing that, making 80, 100K a year.
So you have to be smart about it at the same time. Like, you can't just be like, okay, I'm going to focus my whole life around knocking doors now. Like, you need to be like, okay, this is an avenue that you're going to transition into something else. Like, you need to be learning a skill and learning something else that you can transition this into. Like, you learn a trade so you know how to sell this, go to college, get your degree so you know how to sell your own business, like sell your products in your business or your skills in your business. Like, I wouldn't suggest basically deciding, hey, I'm going to be a lifetime door-to-door salesman. Like, that's not the life.
So what would you do? I mean, you don't have to have an answer for this, but would you be doing something if you didn't do the installation business? Where do you think you'd be?
Honestly, I think that I would be a regional probably for Vivint. Like, I think that I would be
managing people.
Yeah, I'd be managing people there because I did really well there, and I was becoming like the icon in everybody in my region.
Golden boy.
I was the golden boy, and like whenever anybody talked about anybody on how to sell, like, or who you should imitate or who you should have coach you, like everyone was going to me, and like I was becoming that person, and like my regional would always have me be the person in front of everybody, and I was like that golden boy. And so if I stayed in that, I think that is where I would have went, as I would have went into the whole regional position.
Well, and I think the kind of the point you're explaining is like everyone needs a cash cow, right? Like, it doesn't have to be summer sales, but summer sales kind of accelerates it. And what it does is it gives you like some cash that you can put into another business or real estate, right? So I think there's obviously a lot of downsides, but for people with the killer instincts, they can come up with the cash faster. Where, like, I mean, I might recommend a more balanced lifestyle where you just start a business and kind of bootstrap it from scratch. You can still have a cash cow, but for summer salespeople, it just accelerates the whole thing.
That's exactly right. It takes money to make money. And so you like start with summer sales so that you have a good nest egg to start with. And then you take that and you use it to put into a business. Like, that's what the smart people do.
Yeah. So it's, I guess for both of you, Ben and then Kris, like, what's the best way to use that money? Like, what would you, and you probably did a good way, and I want to talk about some of your investments and your success there, but maybe we could even be like, you make $50,000, you're 22 years old, what do you do with that?
So without a doubt, what you do with that money is you invest in yourself. Like, there is nothing out there that you can put money into that's going to give you the same return as putting that money into yourself is going to give you.
What do you mean? Like,
so like put it into like learning another skill, or like learning a trade, or into a business that you're going to be running yourself, like whatever it is, like put it into yourself, and you're going to get a way higher return than you can put into anything else. Like, yeah, you can get a return in real estate, you get a return on like investing in different things, but if you just put that into yourself, you'll get a way higher return than what you will in anything out there.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. Like, it's got to be something that you can put it into yourself, or something you're working towards, right? So yeah. I think the number one thing is a business, right? So it's something that it doesn't have to be crazy, like a landscaping company, a window company, a cleaning company. You know, some of those, the businesses something that you can do and you can train others to do, that can be your new cash cow. Because, you know, after a couple summers of summer sales, like, you can start to transition and do both, you know, and then you can phase out of that summer sales. But if you want, you don't have to. But I mean, I'm a big fan of real estate. I know that he's invested in some real estate too, but that's never going to go out of style, right? Like the stock market's taking a hit right now, but the real estate isn't. So we don't have to go deep dive into real estate, but nothing's going to pay you more as far as something really, really passive than real estate. But I'd say first a business and then real estate.
Yeah, I'd agree 100%. And so like taking that money and putting it into something that you can use as a business is what I stand behind 100%.
And that's what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. So what about, did you, and you don't have to talk about this if you don't want, but like passive income, did you build like a nice, like with all this money you made, were you able to, could you not work today if you didn't want to, is basically?
Yeah, like if I'm being honest, I took the last 2 years off. I didn't work the last 2 years. And so I can take as much time off as I want. And so if I didn't work anymore, I would have to manage my money. Like I couldn't be like stupid about it, but yeah.
So, like with a passive, what's like a good like passive income investment?
One that I've been doing is hard money lending. And so, I have guys that will basically reach out to me on projects that they want to invest in, and it's strictly real estate. And well, I guess for the most part it's real estate. But what I'll do is they'll have a project, they'll send me the scope of work on what they're going to be doing to it. They'll send me the value of the property, and I will usually buy this property at like it's at a rehabbed cost, so it's going to be at a lot lower rate than what it's worth. It's usually $150,000 lower than what it's like any comparables are in that area. And I'll buy the property, and then the other guys will rehab it. And so I'll give them a little bit of money for each rehab. And so they'll go do the kitchen with $30,000 I give them, and then I'll keep giving them more and more to finish the whole house. And then once the house is done, then we do profit sharing. But I will get like a monthly interest rate on the money that I loan to them. So I'm essentially loaning them the cost of the property and loaning them the cost of the rehab on the project. So I'm going to be getting the interest on the total amount every single month until it's finished, and then do profit sharing. And I'm secured when I do that because I own the property. So if anything goes wrong, then I'm still secured with my money in the property.
That's really cool.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's a great example of something you can transition to. Just simple business model, but once you have resources, you can kind of get into other things like that fit your personality and your appetite for work or risk and things like that.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if we were gonna get into this, but you have a crypto company, right?
Yeah, so I've been getting into the cryptocurrency as well. So I have a venture right now where we're putting together miners where basically the investors will choose how many rigs they want to buy or purchase. We put them together, and then I will basically pay for the electricity, monitoring, insurance, all that to run the rig. And then all the crypto that's being mined, we're doing profit sharing between the two of us on each investor that comes in. So that is a huge opportunity right now, just because you can write off the entire cost when you buy a crypto rig, just the computer.
Wow.
So you
How
can.
much are they?
So the big ones that we're doing right now are $50,000 per rig.
And it's not like real estate. You could do that in 5 years on your taxes.
Yeah.
That's huge. And what kind of returns do you see with that type of investment?
Generally, with just the cost of the rig and the return itself is around 90% return per year, just off of one rig and the amount of crypto. But it's all depending on the market, on what the crypto's selling for at that time. Right now, it's kind of taking a hit, so it's lower, but it's still a huge opportunity.
Yeah. So if you had to say, what's a better investment? I mean, we could dive deep into both, but would you say real estate or crypto?
So it just depends on each person on kind of what their level of risk is. Like if you're wanting a super secure investment, then real estate's like your super secure investment. But if you're wanting like something with a ton of upside, like then crypto is one that you can't beat.
Yeah.
So if you have 50,000 lying around, come talk to Kriss.
Yeah.
Build you a crypto mine.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So could you like explain what crypto is? So many people I've talked to people about crypto and stuff. No one knows. Everyone's got a different idea, and it's actually really hard to explain.
Yes, and I feel like that's the thing that makes the most confusion for people is the people that actually don't know what it is. They're trying to explain it to other people, and then it like makes a ton of confusion. And so the simplest way to explain it is cryptocurrency is just a faster way to transfer money from one person to another. So right now, the main ways people transfer funds are like with cash or with checks or with wires. And with that, like if you're doing a wire, it can take up to 24 hours for your wire to transfer and the other person to get the money that they're supposed to. And with cryptocurrency, they are able to transfer money from one person to another extremely fast, like within seconds, minutes, whatever. And the thing that separates cryptocurrency from like a wire transfer or these other like banking systems is like a bank can be hacked. Like their wire system, if someone gets in there and knows how to hack into the system, they can have access to all this money. And with cryptocurrency, it's set up where they have all these miners all over the world. So the way it works is a miner is basically a little computer that tracks algorithms and tracks transactions. So when you transfer money from one person to another, it just tracks that transaction. And
that's the blockchain.
Yes. And they have, it's just over redundant. They have multiple computers multiple times checking each transaction. So like one in Idaho versus one in California or whatever, like all over the world, each transaction's getting checked multiple times. So even if someone tried to hack it and say, I'm going to try and steal money from this big conglomerate, they can't, because they would hack one person's computer and that's getting checked like hundreds of times by all the other miners out there. So that they can't steal from it.
And I feel like that's where people get so confused, is because they hear the word mine.
Yes,
and mine these digital coins, and it's like, no, they're actually doing something.
Yes, all they're doing is working.
It's like, I'm not mining a digital coin. That's stupid.
Yeah, they're not mining anything. All they're doing is working for a certain company like Bitcoin and following Bitcoin's transactions, and they get paid to track their transactions. But they just, instead of get paid in cash, they get paid in Bitcoin, and so that's how it works.
Yeah, thanks for explaining that. I just feel like, yeah, it's harder when you don't understand what it is, and then that's what freaks people out.
Yeah.
So, I know. Did you have a thought? I know you've had a lot of trials in your life. You know, you've been able to overcome a lot of adversity, and one was when you got sick. And I know you talked about that a little bit before, and it's actually an incredible story. So would you mind sharing a little bit about that, about overcoming that challenge?
Yeah, for sure. So what had happened was it was a crazy time in my life. I was getting back into jiu-jitsu. I had done mixed martial arts for a while. I had done it off and on for like 10 years. And I dropped in on this class in Boise, and the instructor was just like on this ego trip. Like he was just like, hey, yeah, let's roll with me. We'll just practice, whatever. And then he wasn't submitting me. And so he was like taking it as like a challenge. Like, okay, I need to like really show this dude what's up or something. And he tries to get me in this chokehold. It's a triangle. I don't know if you guys know MMA, but he gets me in this chokehold, and he doesn't do it right. And he's supposed to have my arm basically as part of the chokehold, and he just has his legs wrapped around my neck, and he just starts squeezing, and my neck pops, and it is like this crazy loud pop, and like I get this crazy headache just automatically, and I didn't know what the heck just happened, and it turns out that it severely damaged the ligaments through my neck, and the top of my spine, my skull was like sliding, not staying stable on the top of my spine, and would come off about 4 millimeters to each side. Jeez. And I went to a chiropractor like shortly after that because my neck was just so messed up, and I was like in this headache constantly. And he didn't examine me. He didn't do anything. He's just like, yeah, just lay down. I'm going to pop your neck. You're going to be good. And I think he was just in a rush because he had another client or whatever. And he puts the strap around my neck or around my head that's called a Y strap. And this was a big dude. This dude was probably like 250 pounds, 260 pounds. And like he gets behind me and then just yanks. Mm-hmm. And when he did that, like after that, I couldn't lift my left arm anymore. Like I could lift it about up to my like not even shoulder height. And it messed up my vagus nerve, and it sent my whole left side of my neck down my left arm into this muscle spasm that was pulling up on my first rib, pinching my arteries and my artery and my nerves and veins through my left arm. And that's still happening to this day. Like I can't grip anything with my left hand because of that. Like I can barely hold on to stuff. But what really messed me up was that, like, how it messed up my vagus nerve, because that made it so, like, whenever I'd fall asleep, I would stop breathing, and then just like shoot awake, and then my heart rate would just be going crazy, and it wouldn't come back down. Like my heart rate and my blood pressure would stay up around 180 and over 130, with my heart rate up over 100, and it would stay there 24/7. And like I would go to the emergency room because they say once your blood pressure gets over 180, over 130, like you can have a stroke. And so like I was in this constant state of like mania because my body wouldn't relax, and it put me into like that state of fight or flight 24/7. And it was like nothing I can even explain. And it took like a year and a half for that to start healing and getting better. And so for that time, it was like an emotional nightmare for me because I couldn't focus. I couldn't think because my blood pressure is going so fast. And so I couldn't really do anything. Like my normal life was done at that point. And
at what point were you in your career? How old were you at this point?
So this was 2 years ago.
Oh,
And
geez.
Yeah, so this was 2 years ago. And it had a huge impact on like my ability to work or to do anything. And so I really had to like take a step back and reevaluate like my life and the things that are truly important and the things that really mattered to me. And in all reality, like that is a thing that like made me really build a relationship with my Savior. Is the only thing that would give me any peace and help me calm down at all was like when I would pray or when I would like study my scriptures. And when I would do that, like a peace would come over me like that I'd never felt. And that's the only thing that helped me get through that time in my life, because the craziness of my heart and like blood pressure and the dizziness that was about all like everything was like I couldn't function.
Yeah, if you don't know, the vagus nerve it's the one that sends the signal from like your heart and your brain to trigger your fight or flight.
Yes, and for people that don't know, like when you get stuck in that fight or flight mode, like you cannot think logically. Like yeah, and so it's a crazy experience.
How did your family? How old was your daughter?
so she was 4 probably when it first happened.
So what was that like with your family?
It was, man, it was so rough. Like, just because I'm like, I would go and like lock myself downstairs in the theater room and just try and get to a place where I could get my body to calm down. I'd turn up the AC like super cold and like try and like be in the dark and like try and get myself to chill out. And so it pulled me away from work. It pulled me away from everything.
Wow. So you still have problems now, but how did things get better? Because they're not as severe anymore, right?
So it just took time for the nerves to heal and for me to start feeling better. And yeah, with the ones that are through my left arm, like that's still messed up. Like I can't hardly grip. Like I've been working with a doctor in the Huntsman up north that their only option that they're saying is like, since my whole neck on the side's in this muscle spasm, that the only option to take the pressure off the nerves is to basically go in through my rib cage, collapse one of my lungs, go up and cut out my first rib and take the pressure off my arteries and my nerves and veins.
Jeez.
And I'm just like, yeah, I think I'm going to hold off on that until I can't stand it at all.
Is this, do you know anyone else this happened to? Like, did doctors say this has happened before?
Yeah, like they say it's not common at all, but they have a list of like things that can cause it, by like trauma for one, and then there's different ways if you're like working out a ton of overhead exercises, stuff like that. If you overbuild your body in certain ways, that it can like cut off circulation to like your brachial plexus down your left arm. But yeah.
Dang, that's unimaginable, actually. I mean, I don't think anybody even just explain that doesn't even, like, it's hard to really understand probably what you've had to go through the last couple of years.
Yeah, it was definitely a learning experience for sure. And I guess like one of the main things that I've taken from it is like, you're a lot stronger. Like, I'm a lot stronger. People are a lot stronger than they give themselves credit for. And just as long as you don't give up, like, and you keep fighting through when bad things happen to you, like you're going to make it through it. You can't let it just defeat you. And that's the same thing with sales is you're going to get a lot of trials. You're going to get a lot of adversity. When you start your own business, like, it's not like a straight line to success. Like, you're going to have a lot of ups and downs, and it's going to be up to you on how you respond to every circumstance. Either you're going to be the type of person that's going to be like, okay, this just happened to me. My life's over. I'm just going to give up. Or you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to find a way to succeed. I'm going to find a way to get past this. I'm going to find a way to do whatever I can do on my own to get past whatever I'm dealing with at this point. And that's the same thing like with summer sales is you're going to get a lot of rejection. You're going to get a lot of people basically slamming the door in your face, yelling at you, acting crazy. And as long as you have tough skin and you're not going to be the type of person that just gives up because something hard happens to you or something bad happens to you, then as long as you build that early on, then you're going to have the success you need to go through hard things in life, because life only gets harder. Like, life does not get easier. So as long as you're basically doing that from the get-go, is planning on, hey, I'm just going to build myself to make myself so I'm strong and I'm going to be able to overcome whatever happens, then you're going to have the success that you want. Because even with my business wasn't a straight line like to success. Like, I had so many like crazy things happen to me with my business. Like, even with those first 2 guys that I went into business with at the beginning, like, they, instead of putting me on the ownership to the business, they stole $60,000 from me that I paid to pay for the initial trucks and equipment and all that to get the business running. And then they stole that and basically said, oh, they said, yeah, we're going to put you as an owner. Like, this is a 3-way ownership in this company. And then after I started recruiting all my buddies and bringing all these sales and doing all this, I started hearing from them that they're telling people that I was just a recruiter for them and I wasn't an owner. And so they ended up taking like the huge amount of my life savings that I put into that first company. And I could have done the exact same thing. Like at that point, is just like giving up because these 2 dudes just stole my life savings. And what am I going to do now? And
that would be like, I would probably have had an anxiety attack.
Well, it's traumatic, right? Like you have to have a really high tolerance for stress.
Yes.
Right? Whether it's sales or management or entrepreneurship, like you've got to be willing to pay the price. And the price is having a certain amount of risk and stress that's never going to go away. So I think you just have to manage it, right? You have to be able to delegate and like slowly get things off your plate. But you have to understand that, you know, the entrepreneur and the manager, whatever, you get the most fun jobs and you get the least fun jobs, and everything else in the middle.
Yes.
You know, everyone else gets, but you got to be willing to take the least fun jobs to have the most fun jobs, right?
That's exactly right. Like you have to be able to work and put in the hours and the time that everybody else isn't willing to do. And as long as you're willing to do that, like you're going to find success. And so you just can't, there's no easy way out. Like you have to be able to do the hard stuff.
Well, those guys that promised you the company and, you know, took your $60K, those are the 2 guys, you know, his friends, the guy that you sat in his house, those are those 2 guys, right?
Yeah, those
birds of a feather flock together.
Yeah, that's how I should have associated
From 2
that.
to 60.
2 to 60 grand.
Wow. So, like, what's running through your mind? How'd you overcome that?
So being so young when that happened, like that was like a huge blow to me. And yeah, talk about anxiety attack. Like I never had anxiety before that. And then after I put everything I had into that and making that work, then I had like freaking crazy and like anxiety attacks that started coming on because I was like freaking out. And I just decided, okay, you know what? I'm going to go back and I'm going to make more money. I'm going to go sell for Vivint again and I'm going to make more money. And Vivint was recruiting me super hard at that time. And so they gave me a big signing bonus to come back. And then they told me that they would fight this lawsuit for me to get my money back from these guys that had stolen it. And so I was like, yeah, sure. Like, you guys go get my money back. I'll go sell, get more money. And then I'm going to go from there. And so that's what I did is I went back to him and I sold another summer and I went out there and did my thing. Like I sold a ton of accounts and made a grip of cash. I think that over the summer I probably made like 140 grand.
Wow.
And so I had money to basically go and to do something else.
Were you worried about starting over, like about investing money like that again into a company? Because you did.
Yeah, like it made me like nervous about like who I could trust and that type of thing, but I was still willing to risk it just because I knew, like after seeing what that first business did and the amount of money that was going through that, I was like, nothing is going to compare to that. Like I can go and start that. I know all the ins and outs of it, and it's going to make a ton of money.
Yeah. So what about, like, it's kind of on that line, but we were talking before, Ben and I, about like partnerships. Like what's your thought on like partnerships? Should you know, because some people who are risk averse and, you know, make them nervous, like they might like doing a partnership because, you know, they have a buddy there. I mean, I listened to Connor Atkin and Quinn Allgood, the Tag and Go guys. Those guys are like those. They have a relationship like I've never seen before. I mean, they're crazy. They're really cool. They're amazing. It's like, but partnerships really worked out for them. What's your opinion on that?
So my opinion on partnerships is like, that's risky business for sure. And you're putting so much on the line, like when you're partnering with somebody. And so I would say, like, partner with people that you know, like, and you have a really good relationship with, like, not people that you don't know that well. Because honestly, I'm to the point where I don't even know if I'd ever do a partnership again with anybody, because all the partnerships that I've done, I've gotten burned hard. And I'm talking hard.
Yeah, I would add, just if you're gonna do a partnership, there has to be probably like, you have to have like that, BFF, and you're like exactly on the same page. But even people that like, you got to have a lawyer involved or something, because it's just a lot of times there's not enough meat on the bone for everybody, and so there becomes a fight, right? So you got to really have I would recommend 100% ownership, or get a lawyer involved so the roles are super clear, right? That it's just safe. Like, I think I have a friend who he wants to start a auto detailing business, and he has a buddy, and I'm just like, dude, like, this is your buddy, but at the same time, like, who's putting in more? You guys don't have any roles. You guys don't have an operating agreement. Like, you're better off to just like dissolve this one and each do your own, or you don't have the money to really call a lawyer right now. So it's like, that's kind of what I recommended to him. Not because I don't want him to be friends with his buddy, but just because I want him to keep his buddy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, that I feel the exact same on that. And when you do go into business with people, like, you have to have a good attorney. You have to have an attorney that's going to be writing everything out and having everything signed and clear. Like, and even then, like, the way businesses generally go, in my opinion, is one partner starts feeling like he's doing more work than the other partner, because he only sees what he's doing every day, and the other one sees what he's doing every day. And generally they don't see what each other's doing, and the one starts feeling like they're doing more than the other. And then there's this crazy resentment that starts happening. And then if there isn't a lot of money there to be split or whatever, like, it just turns into a nightmare.
Yeah, I remember I'm an accountant, but when we took our partnerships course in accounting, they're like, the only way that you could probably get it to work is if you said, like, if you charge interest for money you've invested. So let's say Chris puts in 50 and Ben puts in 50 and I put in 10. They would be like, okay, we're going to charge interest on that money. So you're going to get paid, 10%, 10%, 10%. And that's going to come out of the bottom line, because you're going to split off the bottom, right? We'll split off the profits at the bottom line. So your chug's going to be bigger than mine because you have more money invested. And then it was like the same thing would be, if I'm doing a certain thing, pay that person that wage, like whatever. If you're doing secretary work, pay them a secretary wage. If you're doing admin stuff, pay them that wage. That comes out, and it makes that bottom, that, the profit a little bit smaller. That gets split, between your agreement. That'd be the only way I could see it, like, people not being as upset, because it's like, okay, you're pulling money out, you're drawing money, and I'm leaving it in. And so there's resentment. And then, yeah, I've seen a lot. That's why, yeah.
A good strategy would also be to, pay a premium for people to do those roles, right? So, like, a lot of the, like a summer sales company is an example. Like, they don't give everybody ownership, but they pay them a really good wage to do a job, right? So that's something that you could do too, is like hire management and just pay them better than any other company like you could pay them. And that's a good way to avoid.
And then you're not in a partnership.
Yeah. And I mean, like, with me, I've come full circle where, like, I've been really like hesitant to do partnerships, but now I have a good lawyer and I have a good business plan, and it's like I'm coming full circle where it's like I'm finally starting to look at partnerships again for the first time.
But so you're looking for just for the storage unit side, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's not the moving company side.
The moving side, like, and this goes with insulation too. Like, there's too many moving pieces in a business like that, where you have too many things going on to clearly define the roles, in my opinion. Like a storage unit business, it's like very passive and, like, the roles can be more clearly defined. Anyways, my 2 cents.
Yeah. No, that's really good. So, yeah. Did you, like with sales, like with starting a business and being an entrepreneur, what advice did you have on that, like starting up a business? Like how would you approach that?
So, I would really tell someone that's going to start a business, choose something that is something that you know, a skill you have or something you know, or something you know automatically that you can market and you can sell, then it's going to sell itself very easily. And so with this, like, I didn't know insulation when I got into it. Like, I didn't know anything. I didn't know what an R value was. I didn't know like anything about insulation, but I knew like I could sell it because like it sold itself. All these programs were just like giving it away. And I knew like I had the background to take all these sales guys and put them in basically these apartments and in these places to blow it up. And so as I grew it, what I would do is I would go and I would look up each state and I would find the states with the biggest incentives and the biggest programs. So it would be the easiest sells. And so I would send basically these guys all over the United States. And so I would go and I would get like apartments, and sometimes I'd have as many as like 13 to 17 apartments in my name. And I would be renting out apartments, loading it up with sales guys, and then I would be training these sales guys how to go door to door and how to sell, and then I'd be training technicians how to go and do the work. And dude, it was crazy. Like at different times, like we'd be doing like in one location like 100 installs in a week. And so try installing 100 homes with insulation in 1 week. Like, it's crazy.
How do you do that?
Yeah. And so like we'd have huge weeks just in like one office where we'd do like 250,000 in sales in 1 week. And so it was crazy, like crazy times.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
Love it. What takeaway would you give to our listeners? Like, if there's one thing that you've learned in your life, one skill or attribute that you suggest they develop, like that could be applied in any business or any situation, what would that be?
The number one thing is think positive. Like, don't allow negativity to come in and overtake your mind, because like there's going to be negativity all around you in every part of your life, and every single day you can focus on the negative things that happen to you, or you can focus on the positive, and you can create your own heaven each day to live in, your own paradise, or you can create your own hell. And that all comes from your mindset. Like, you're going to focus on each day the things that like the people around you are doing bad and doing wrong, or you're going to focus on the things that are going right. And as you do, and you focus on the things that are going right, you're going to build and build and build, and that's going to create something positive. But as you focus on the negative, you're going to tear down, and until you have nothing, and everybody else around you isn't going to want to be around you. No one wants to be around that person. And so if you want to be a successful person, you focus on controlling your mind. And that was something that I learned, like, really that first year going into sales, because this is something that probably a lot of people don't know about me, was I had this really bad back injury. And well, I guess I need to take a step back. In my senior year in football, I had this crazy injury where they almost had to amputate my leg. Jeez. And basically my calf got smashed between two helmets. It caused something called compartment syndrome. And I went to the sideline. I was the running back, and I told the coach, I was like, man, there's something wrong, and I don't know what it is, but I can't like control my foot. And like the trainer there's like, oh, we need you. Like, I'm just going to tape your foot up, and like tapes my foot up, has me play the rest of the game on it. Oh, and after that, I go home and I'm laying in bed, and it is like excruciating pain. Every time my heart would beat, like it would be like feeling like my leg was ripping apart, because what was happening was more blood would pump in and no blood would come out. And so it was starting to cause gangrene, and I had no idea what was going on. And long story short, I had to have this emergency surgery done. They had to cut down my calf and bleed out like everything out of there. And the doctor was like saying he was going to have to amputate my leg. And it it took all my sports away my whole senior year. I had scholarships for pole vaulting. I was supposed to go and be a track athlete, and so it killed all that for me. And then it led into this crazy back injury that I went right into my mission, and that back injury escalated over a year that I had to go home early because my back was so bad. And it was because my leg didn't have enough time to heal by the time I went out into the field. And so my back started overcompensating for it, and it messed me up by the end. It was super bad. And I got sent home, and I was mad. Like, I was in a bad state of mind because I'm like, hey, I'm trying to go out there and do everything I'm trained to do. I'm supposed to go be a missionary, serve the Lord. I'm supposed to do all this stuff, and things aren't working out for me. And so it made me really bitter and resentful. And I watched The Secret. Like, I had a buddy that came over and was like, hey, like, you need to watch this show. And this was after like months of me being in like a really bad mental spot. And I watched it, and it just talked about like the power of positive thinking and the power of like controlling your mind and the power of like you manifesting your own life and what you want and what's going to happen. And so that year I told myself I was going to make $100,000, and I was homeless at that time because my family moved to Pennsylvania. I didn't have anywhere to go. My back was messed up. And so I was bouncing between couches from my grandma's house, my friend's house, all over. And so I was homeless. And I told myself, okay, I'm going to make $100,000. And I just started telling myself that every day. And then I signed up for this grant to get into ISU. I took that grant into basically making money as a personal trainer. I got my certificate, and then the money I made from personal training and sales that year, I made $100,000.
Wow.
And so, like, if there's any takeaway that I would encourage people to really take from this is like, your power of your mind is extremely powerful. And so if you want to accomplish something, you need to be able to control your mind and control what the things that you're thinking about. If you're going to think positive and focus on the things you want, or if you're going to focus on the things that make life suck every day, because every single one of us has them, and you're going to either focus on the ones that suck, or you're going to focus on the ones that are amazing and what you can build off of. And as long as you focus on that, you can build some pretty incredible stuff. Like the company that I built over the last 13 years, it's made millions of dollars. And like, I never would have thought that I would have been the person that would be able to made millions of dollars doing stuff like this.
Wow. That's amazing. Really. I mean, it's inspiring to me for sure. Being able to, I mean, just everything you've gone through, you have every reason in the book to be a victim, but you like overcame, and just kept pushing through, which I hope that inspires other people too.
Yeah, the power of positivity, it can't be underestimated, right? So shifting that mindset, keeping your cool, keeping focus on what matters, I think that says a lot about you. And I think we can all learn to keep positivity at the forefront of our mind.
Definitely. Well, Kriss, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was great getting to know you a little bit better and hearing your story, and I had a great time. If you liked the show, please like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
That's right.